AB.
Oh my gosh, bro. Have you seen what's going on with him?
Yeah.
They seriously have to look into, like, concussion stuff. Maybe that should be something we talk about is the Dolphins and how NFL concussion protocol is going to change because the NFL can't really enforce if Tua was actually hurt with his concussion.
Yeah. All I know, it wasn't the Dolphins' fault. So
It was.
His back injuries.
how's it the Dolphins' fault if the NFL cleared him?
Why did his personal doctor get fired?
It wasn't his. It was an NFL doctor that got prescribed to him, but it wasn't the Dolphins' doctor that was an NFL doctor.
I'm just saying.
Oh my god, I can go into this. This could be the whole podcast if it wanted to be.
Let's do it then. Yo, what's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the Cork It podcast. My name is Kyle. I'm here with
Dante Allison.
Nico Genovese.
and it's been a little bit. We've had a bit of a hiatus, getting situated into school, and then we had illnesses that ran through us, so we had to work on that, work on getting healthy, just getting back ready for you to get some content out there. So we've missed a lot of storylines in the NFL and the NBA and the NCAA. So we're gonna do our best to get through all of that. I do want to jump into this though. Now that we mentioned it, is Tua Tagovailoa? Say it.
Tagovailoa.
Tua Tagovailoa tearing up the league to start off. I will say he was doing pretty well.
He was doing incredible.
Doing it hot.
Doing incredible.
So he gets hurt in the Bills game, gets the concussion, the questionable concussion.
Yeah,
like,
and
should
he
he have
couldn't
gone
even
back
stand.
out? Yeah, he gets back up off the ground, and then he takes a couple of steps and falls. And they're like, should he have gone back out there? We don't know. And then the next week against the Bengals, it happens again, and he gets, like, shock with, like, his fingers and whatever.
Yeah.
So, Nico, you're a diehard Dolphins fan.
Yeah.
Dante, you're a bit of a Dolphins hater. Let's unpack this because this has been a hot button issue now. Talking about concussion protocol and all this stuff coming out about football being dangerous for your brain and how they find that later in life, like it's adding to Alzheimer's and depression rates and all this stuff. And then we see this stuff come out about Antonio Brown and all the stuff he's been doing after that really, really bad hit he had against the Bengals. And so now you've got a lot of things coming into play that are questioning if NFL concussion protocol is the best it can be, like if there needs to be changes going in there. So first of all, Nico, I just want you to break down the Dolphins, what kind of happened there, and then we'll go into the rest.
All right. So with the Dolphins situation against the Bills, first of all, I just want to say I feel extremely bad for Tua. He is one of the most hated on quarterbacks in the league right now. No one thinks he can do good in the NFL, and then he has the best 3 games of his NFL career. There's people saying, oh, Alabama Tua's back, he's playing great, and then he gets a little shaken up in the Bills game. So what happened in the Bills game? It looked bad. The video, everyone's seen it, him stumbling as he got up. It looked really bad. But once he said it was back, I kind of understood it because he had a QB sneak earlier in the game, and then a picture came out where he got bent up. So his head was, we've kind of had similar stuff as like a kid and stuff, but his head was going like over his feet, like it was kind of like bent like that. So that kind of messed up with his lower back, and then he got pushed to the ground, and his back tightened up, and something happened. So once he said it was a back, I kind of understood because he wasn't wobbly as soon as he got up. I feel like if it was a full concussion, he would have been wobbling and falling as soon as he got up. He got up, jogged a couple steps, then he took that one step, and then his back locked up and he fell.
So your take is that they were correct in that it wasn't a concussion and it was back problems.
Yes, because
on the Bills game.
Yes, in the Bills game. Because again, he got cleared by doctors, and then people were questioning like McDaniel's integrity and the Dolphins staff and all that, but like these weren't the Dolphins doctors. McDaniel wasn't, oh, you're good, concussion test fine, you're good to go back in. These were NFL doctors who cleared him. Now, one got fired, were some of them at fault? Did they not do the test right? I have no clue. But everyone on Twitter and everything, including Dante, thinks he's a doctor right now.
No.
Thinks he knows neuroscience and stuff. And everyone's claiming Tua had a concussion when he got cleared. So he goes back in, wins the game for us, 3-0 Dolphins. Everyone's happy, right? Now here comes the question of Tua should play Thursday night in a short week against the Bengals. Sunday after the game, got tested again, concussion clear. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday before the game, was with doctors, was seeing doctors, do a concussion test, nothing. Everything came back clear. He had no concussion. And now he had the gruesome concussion, gruesome head injury against the Bengals, as we saw. His fingers got locked up, couldn't move. So everyone's blaming McDaniel if shouldn't have put him back in because he had a concussion prior.
Yeah.
But all I want to say is, one, no one knows if he had a concussion prior, again, because he was cleared. Two, if any quarterback, no matter if they had an injury 4 days earlier or what, if they got slammed that hard on a hard surface, as the Bengals on turf,
Yeah.
if they got slammed that hard, you would probably have a concussion because, again, we've seen the video. The D lineman for the Bengals took him below and slammed him pretty hard.
Right.
It was a hard hit. So I don't think we should be blaming the Dolphins, or I don't think we should be blaming anything from Tua's injury on Sunday against the Bills on how that affected his injury against the Bengals. Because if it was something worse with his back, like, because you can be paralyzed from back problems or other nerve damages and back problems. So if it was something with that, then yeah, question the integrity of some people. Should have been played on. The back injury was too bad. But when you get slammed to the ground that hard, you can't really say that he had a concussion prior just because he had one. He ended up getting one in Thursday's game. Like, he got hit hard. That's going to happen in the NFL. So all these Twitter people and Dante Ellison right here, who thinks they're doctors and thinks they know what Tua's situation was, just settle down, all right? Settle down. These are professional doctors looking at him. He's in concussion protocol now, not playing against the Jets. Let's settle down, all right? He didn't have a concussion against the Bills. He got cleared for all that. He went in clean with head.
I will say that an interesting thing that got pointed out on Twitter was that people were like questioning. So he got discharged by Cincinnati. It was like the Cincinnati center. It was the neurological center, which is like one of the best in the country. Yeah, and he got discharged from there, and people were like, should he really be traveling with the team now? Blah blah blah.
Because people were questioning Cincinnati's doctors,
right? Like, and now it's not even like Cincinnati Bengals. It's like the city of Cincinnati, like one of the best neurological centers in the country. It was their doctors.
They're neuro doctors. Don't look at Twitter after these situations.
Oh no, not at all. But the interesting thing though that they did with that was that. What I thought was interesting was that they did discharge him to go travel, and then they're coming out and saying, now I don't know all the stuff about concussion stuff and all that stuff, but then they're saying that he's going to be out next week with concussion. Yeah. Okay. So did sustain a concussion.
He has a concussion, but they cleared him to travel because there wasn't any further damage to his brain, to his neck, to anything. And people were like, oh, Dolphins paid off the Cincinnati doctors. Like, Tua's talking to the doctors, paying them off, so then he won't have a report of concussion. I'm like, these are professional doctors who cleared him to travel. Everyone knows he has a concussion now. That's been reported. He's on concussion protocol. So why are you arguing with professional Cincinnati doctors who aren't even like NFL doctors? Like, he traveled to a hospital in Cincinnati. They cleared him to travel. He traveled. He's doing a lot better now. Again, concussion protocol, but he has movement and everything. He's walking, talking normally, full function and everything. So he's all good. It's a concussion. But people can't be hating on doctors and everything, thinking they know best and saying the Dolphins have failed Tua Tagovailoa because they're the reason he has this concussion. Like, no. Like, he didn't have a concussion in the Bills game. They didn't rush him back. He got cleared by all these doctors. What else are you supposed to do as an NFL head coach? You want to win a game. Doctors saying he's good to go. NFL saying he's good to go. Yeah, I'm starting my starting quarterback if I'm being told he's good to go. So I don't put anything on the Dolphins. Nothing on McDaniel. He's not the type of guy. But he's out against the Jets. He's in concussion protocol. I'm hoping he's doing okay. It's the only thing I was worried about. It was a really weird experience finishing that game because I was at it. I wanted to cheer for him, but it was hard to because I wanted Tua to be okay. But hoping he can be good to play in the future, next couple weeks, finish out the season. But for now, he's out, concussion. Hope he's doing well.
Wow, a lot to unpack there. But I don't know how you can say it was like a back problem. Maybe, I don't know if he like hurt his back on that QB sneak that you were talking about, but based on the video, you can see his head like slam on the ground. And
Against the Bills.
Yeah, up against the Bills. And he gets up and he's like dazed and confused. And then he stumbles. Like, and then how do you like allow him to go back in?
Because he got cleared. I don't know how people like you can say, oh, he clearly had a concussion.
I mean,
when you don't know.
I mean, if I slam my head off the ground, yeah, I think I'm going to have a concussion.
And then he gets cleared by doctors.
Okay. Well, that's the iffy part that they're investigating.
I don't get. Okay, if it was iffy in the game, he then got cleared Sunday after the game. He then got cleared Monday. He got cleared Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday before the Cincy game. So if you get cleared in the 4 days you have, 4 days in a row, straight by other doctors, how are you going to question that he had concussion against the Bills game?
Something
Again, the video did
on.
look bad. Don't get me wrong. The video looked bad. But your back can lock up and you can stumble. Mm-hmm. Obviously, it wasn't as extreme, but I've had that happen.
Yeah.
I've been running and my back spasms a little bit, and I lock up and stumble a little bit. But that can happen a lot of the times. But again, I don't like you're saying. I don't get how he couldn't have a concussion. But how could you say he could have a concussion when you're not a doctor?
So there's a clear disconnect here on this idea of did he have one, did he not have one, and honestly, that's up for us to trust the medical professionals there at that point. But there is something further to be talked about contact sports and things like concussion protocol and CTE and this rise and stuff. I know that the NFL has made a somewhat of a push for it. I mean, they implemented those padded helmets, and they said that there was a dip in reported concussions during training camps because they've been using those padded helmets. But I do think that there does need to be some look into how this league kind of handles some stuff like that. I mean, obviously they've cracked down on things like targeting and like big hits like that to try and prevent some of that. But I mean, this is still a real thing that's like going on in people's lives to the point where like there's a discussion on like if you had a kid, like a son or who came up to you and was like, or son or daughter. I mean, it's, yeah. So if you had your kid come up to you and ask you to play football, like what would you say? Because there's coming out all of this data about like contact sports and how it's going to affect you long term with your memory problems. It might make you more exposed and more vulnerable to things like Alzheimer's and other diseases like that. In addition, you can have short-term memory problems, long-term memory problems. And then there's a big example of this going around with Antonio Brown, because post his really bad hit in a game, people started to notice that he wasn't acting like he used to beforehand. And he's doing things like exposing himself at public pools to people and doing like running off the field in the middle of a game, flipping off the crowd, and all these things that he never did beforehand. And it's a real problem, I think, that people are overlooking, because you're seeing a guy like Antonio Brown, who was like one of the best in the game, now kind of like do all of this stuff that's like pretty messed up. I mean, like the stuff at that hotel that came out this past weekend, and then prior to that, I mean, he's been doing a lot of other stuff. He's been getting in trouble with a lot of law enforcement and stuff like that and a lot of people want to link it back to this, concussion and CTE and like really bad hit that he sustained in the playoffs from Vontae Burfict. And I don't know, it's something that definitely does need to be looked at. And I think that Tua's injury here has brought up a lot of that. And I think it's also like, it doesn't help that Tua's been a widely hated quarterback over the last couple of years, because now the whole focus is like shifting the hate from Tua towards the Dolphins staff.
And this is so extreme again, because he's coming off a short week and he had that incident in the Bills game, and now he gets a concussion since his game. I
think that with all of this in mind, like this is like a huge, thing for the news to talk about, especially like as time goes on. How are you going to change things from a league's perspective? How are you going to make sure that stuff like this doesn't happen and that you don't get this backlash for letting a guy potentially play? Yeah. And now they're doing investigations and meeting with the doctors.
What the league could do, I think what the league could do is, if it's something this extreme, because the team has the power to play someone or not. But if it was something this extreme, again, like the Tua incident that just happened, I feel like the league should have power to tell that team, look, you can't play this player for their safety, because you see it a lot, big hits in the NFL, they're shaken up, and then the next week they're good to go. Mm-hmm. But I feel like the league could put their foot down on some teams, some incidents, and just be look, we need this player safe for his safety. You can't play him. Mm-hmm. And I think that could be a step they take. But I mean, we'll see. Who knows? They might just hire better doctors. So
maybe we'll see. But it is something that will definitely be in the topic of discussions around a lot of stuff around the league for the next couple weeks, and as time goes on. But pretty unfortunate. Prayers up to Tua. Hope for a speedy recovery. That injury did look brutal in the Cincinnati game.
Yeah, it was tough to watch.
It was very scary to see. Anyways, that was a very extended around the league. I mean, I want to go into around the league now, but there's not a ton. I mean,
Steelers suck.
Let me retract that. There's too much for us to cover because there's been 2 weeks.
Yeah.
The Steelers. How's your hot takes looking? How are your takes from last year? You had your preseason take of the Steelers making the playoffs. Let's talk about that. Let's unpack
Garbage.
I don't know. I mean, some of these first 4 games were really crucial to us making those playoffs. I thought we were gonna at least be 2-2 coming out of these 4 games, but we dropped a bad one to the Jets. But we have a hard 4-game stretch coming up. I think it's the Bills, Bucks, Dolphins, and Eagles. So those will be that will be a big test. But honestly, I think now we have Kenny Pickett coming in. He'll have practice. He'll be in the offense, more comfortable. I think.
Has it confirmed that he's starting next game over Mitch?
No, it's not confirmed. But I mean, I don't see a world where you go back to Mitch after
taking him out. So do you want to talk about, because I know a lot of people won't see it, those 2 interceptions he threw. So Kenny Pickett ended the game with 2 interceptions. One of them was on the first throw of his NFL career. Was it 3 interceptions?
He had a Hail Mary one at the end.
Okay. So he had 3 interceptions, one of which was on his very first NFL pass.
Yeah.
So do you want to talk about those? Because I know a lot of people look at that and they go, that's horrible. But when you watch the game, you kind of took a look. And I know Nick mentioned this a lot. A lot of those balls were catchable for the receiver, and they went off the receiver's hands and unlucky bounce into the defender's arms. So is there any I mean, I guess what I'm trying to ask here is do you take anything away from Kenny Pickett? Are you okay, well, he needs to work on this better, he needs to do this better, or was it just unlucky?
I mean, it's his first game. He got put in at a bad situation, in my opinion. You can't just force a rookie at halftime in a crucial game like that and expect him to make all these amazing throws and everything.
Yeah.
That first one, it was double covered. I mean, underthrown, but I mean, it hit Claypool in the hands. I mean, he's a 6'4" wide receiver who's known for contested catches. You got to catch that. I think it's both on Kenny Pickett and Claypool there. I mean, it is aggressiveness that we needed in the offense, because our offense was let's throw it 5 yards and see what we pick up. But and then the Muth one, it went through his hands, but he was getting pressured from each side. He went through. I saw a video on TikTok. He went he looked at the left side twice, and then immediately looked to the right and just threw it. And we're up 3 with 5 minutes left in the 4th, I think. And you just got you needed that. You needed to live another down. So I think you should have just thrown away. Pat was 1 yard down. What was 1 yard going to do on a 2nd and 15? I mean, just throw it out. I think that's on him. But I mean, he can only go up. You can only go up from here.
Right. I do think the biggest thing that I noticed from that game is I don't really blame him for the interceptions in the fact that they hit the receivers in the hands and they just bounced out, and, or good pressure from the other defense. But I will say, though, that one of the things that kind of would have prevented both those interceptions is both of them were thrown in double coverage. Like, there was 2 guys in the area, which allowed for one guy to break up the pass and the other guy to be there to catch the ball on its way down to the ground for the interceptions. So I will say that is something that he might want to work on, as those reads were not great because he did throw them in double coverage. That was my biggest takeaway from that, is just, spending a little more time in the pocket. However, I will agree with you. I think it was a horrible job from the Steelers putting it in halfway through a game against the Jets when, they were already, like you said, they were like in a position to like kind of win that game. Yeah. And throwing him in with no warning really and all that stuff. Like, I understand there's sometimes for rookie quarterbacks to get their first start, or if you put them in at the end of a blowout so they can get some snaps in. But at halftime in a close game, I didn't like that at all, with no warning. Because at least I know, obviously a very different situation. But for when Jordan Love got his first start, it came unprecedented because Aaron Rodgers got COVID. But there was still enough time to prep him through practice. And I feel like I don't think Kenny Pickett got the preparation in practice that week before to play in his first NFL game.
Yeah. The announcers were like saying that he wasn't even taking first team reps. This was like unheard. Like, they weren't expecting it. Tomlin did say, like, yeah, we needed a spark. Yeah, it sparked the stadium and everything, the fans. We did look like more effective with him in, but like at the end of the day, what did it cost? Like, he wasn't ready. And I guess now you just put him in first team reps in practice and roll with him. But Tomlin still says he's undecided on the week 5 starter, which doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
And then I want to toot my own horn here, but I was correct, and I think I still will be correct about my Raiders being the worst team in the AFC West. They look
not bad.
They look bad.
The Broncos aren't looking good either, though.
They just won their first game.
Yeah.
Against the Broncos. But still, they both look horrible.
No,
Russell Wilson's playing
playing
bad. Derek Carr is not playing good whatsoever. And it really annoyed me, too, that everyone was like, oh, Derek Carr's got Devontae Adams. They're going to be weapons. It doesn't matter if you have the best wide receiver in the league if you can't throw the ball to him.
It's just, I'm disappointed because Derek Carr had a decent season last season.
Yeah.
And he had no receivers. Hunter Renfrow was his wide receiver 1.
But now he's got the best receiver in the league. He can't do anything.
Doing anything. So, I'm disappointed with that because I think I had kind of high expectations for the Raiders this year. But, yeah, I don't know what Derek Carr's doing. You had a good season last year with nothing, and now you have the best receiver in the game, and you're not doing anything.
I was annoyed so much with the Devontae Adams, hype, I guess, because in the first game, they were like, Devontae Adams had 141 receiving yards. The entire Packers receiving core combined had 120. And then the next 2 games, he went for 12 yards and 36 yards. Yeah. And then he followed it up this last week. They did have a nice win against the Broncos. He had 101 yards. But that's the best quote-unquote, the best receiver in the league. And he's getting games with less than 50 receiving yards. Yeah. So this team has looked...
he's seeing
pretty rough.
He's seeing double coverage.
He is seeing double coverage, but still,
seeing that in Green Bay.
He's seeing that in Green Bay.
And yeah, it was Aaron Rodgers, but still, he's seen that in Green Bay and still getting open and still making catches. But
I just think that your loss to the Chargers week 1, close game. It's the Chargers, excusable. The loss week to the Cardinals, no real excuse there. The Cardinals do not have a strong enough defense.
Didn't the Cardinals make a huge comeback too?
Yeah, and the Cardinals do not have a strong enough defense. And they don't really have a strong enough receiving core and offensive weapons. It's basically just Kyler Murray out there. Yeah. And if you lose, you're getting beat by Kyler Murray. And he did make it happen, so shout out to Kyler Murray for that. But if you're losing that game, you're losing to just Kyler Murray. And then the next game, you're losing to the Titans, who just lost all of their receiving core from last year. They lost them.
But
they're starting rookie receivers with Ryan Tannehill as a quarterback, who's known not to be a great passing quarterback. For passing options. They've got Derrick Henry, and that's it. And everyone's been saying that Derrick Henry's regressing this year.
He's not even playing good.
And you lose to them. I mean, granted, these are all pretty close games. They're all one possession, one score. But still, you got to win some of these games. They did have a nice win against the Broncos. The Broncos look really bad. I will say this, though. The Broncos have surprised me at how bad they look.
Yeah.
Russell Wilson looks horrible.
The Broncos have solid receiving options, solid running backs.
Geno Smith is outplaying Russell Wilson right now.
And Russell Wilson's the big problem here.
He turned it up, and he played decent against the Raiders.
He did play decent last night. They lost though. But now the Raiders are sitting at 1-3, just getting their first win here against the Broncos.
Yeah.
Then they play at the Chiefs next week, and the Chiefs look fantastic.
They do look really good.
They look very good. They just played against what most people said was the best defense in the league in the Buccaneers, and they dropped 41 points on them.
Yeah.
So their offense looks potent, and Patrick Mahomes has proved himself to be that guy still.
Yeah.
And so Dominic Contini is disproved because he was like, this year you're gonna see the real Patrick Mahomes, and the real Patrick Mahomes is scary good right now. So
MVP.
So those have been interesting to see, but I do think that the Raiders have not looked solid, and they're gonna start the season. My guess is 1-4 through their first 5, and then they've got some decent matchups. They'll play the Texans, which should be a win. The Saints, which they can win. The Jaguars, which the Jaguars have surprised me. They're playing very good. I was surprised. I knew at some point Trevor Lawrence was going to take some sort of improvement jump, but I didn't expect it to be this early.
No.
Because he looked like the worst quarterback in football last year.
Part of that was coaching, but I think the addition of Christian Kirk really helped him.
Christian Kirk has been very, very solid.
I think that ad really helped Trevor Lawrence, and they're surprising.
The only thing I will say about the Jags as of right now is that the Chargers win impressed me. Like the 38-10 win against the Chargers that most people picked to be in the Super Bowl impressed me.
Yeah.
But then they're doing things like losing to the Commanders.
Yeah.
And they beat the Colts 24-0, which was a great game. They lost to the Eagles this last week. The Eagles are 4-0 though, and it was a close game. So I'm not completely sold on them yet. I still think that they need to show that they can be consistent in some of their games, because I think losing week 1 to the Commanders, who are not good, and then winning your next 2 against Colts and Chargers is pretty impressive.
Yeah.
So I think it'll be interesting to see where they go from here, but they can be a force in the AFC South right now, because the AFC South looks rough.
I would say they're definitely one of, or if not the best 2-2 team right now, because they are playing really good. Who's better? 2-2.
Bengals.
The Bengals are playing awful, dude.
They're playing awful. I'd still take them over the Jaguars.
Right now, I'm taking Jags over.
I'm not taking the Jags over Bengals.
They're not that good.
Dude, the Bengals are playing awful, and their coaching is terrible. Terrible.
Dude,
yeah, but still, at the end of the day, it's Joe Burrow versus Trevor Lawrence, and I'm taking Joe Burrow 10 times out of 10.
5 turnovers against the Eagles. Like
the Eagles defense.
Look, the Bengals had a rough first 2 games, but then they turned it around with 2 solid wins. It's against the Jets, but then they beat the Dolphins, who were 3-0. And you're going to be like, backup quarterback, blah, blah, blah.
But they still almost lost to Teddy Bridgewater. We had a 4th quarter lead.
You're right. And they came back.
Bengals are looking terrible.
They did look rough. But okay, are you going to say that they're terrible for losing in a close game to the Dolphins? You said the Dolphins were good.
Yeah, but if Tua's in the game, they're losing.
Okay, but they're still losing a closer game.
All the Jags losses have been to close games.
Yeah, but one of them was to the Commanders.
Commanders look solid week 1.
Commanders suck, dude. Come on.
Now they do.
Come on.
Carson Wentz went off that week 1.
He still had 2 interceptions.
Still went off with yardage. He had a good game.
Yeah, he had a good game week 1, but then he followed it up by 3 losses.
Well, yeah.
To the Lions, Eagles, and Cowboys. Losing to Cooper Rush.
Cooper Rush is a dog. He's got that dog in him.
So you're saying the Jags look better than the Chargers?
Yeah, Chargers are 2-2.
Chargers aren't playing that good.
Oh
Ravens.
my gosh! Come on.
That's why I said one of.
Come on.
No, you said they.
One of, if not the.
Yeah.
So Ravens is definitely up there, yes.
Okay.
So that's why the one of comes into play.
Okay.
Bears. I will say though, you know who's impressed me? Not really impressed me, but the Seahawks I thought were gonna be horrible, and they're 2-2 right now.
Geno Smith, man.
Geno Smith looked pretty decent. I mean, granted, those 2 wins came against the Broncos and Lions, but still, good for Geno Smith.
I mean, Lions are
always
they're a good team. They don't know how to close games. They can't close a game because all their games have been close.
The Lions have let me read you the scores of all of the Lions games these seasons, okay? Week 1, they lost 38-35. Week 2, they won 36-27. Week 3, they lost 28-24. And this past week, week 4, they lost 48-45. They are putting up consistently 30-plus points a game, and they can't win a game. Their defense is not there.
It's because their defense is always the last in the field, and their defense is not that good to close out a game. They can't make a game-winning stop, and that's what's killing them.
And their one win, guess who it was against? The Commanders, because the Commanders are bad.
Yeah, now they are. No, but yeah, the Lions they're a solid team. They just if they can figure out their defense soon, then I mean that's a game changer for them because their offense is putting up big numbers. Amon-Ra St. Brown's playing out of his mind.
He has been playing out of his mind, and he's been a very solid weapon for him. I think the second they get their franchise quarterback, I think their franchise is going to take a turn really fast.
I mean, Goff's not playing awful.
No, Goff's a good starter, but I'm saying that he's not going to be the guy they want for their future. So I'm saying once they get that guy, they're going to take a quick turnaround. And in my opinion, I think the Lions will be the next force for the NFC North once Rodgers retires. Because I think at that point in time, I mean, Kirk Cousins is getting up there in years left. Playing at elite level at least. Yeah. I mean, they've got Justin Jefferson and Dalvin Cook who are still pretty young, but the way that this Lions team looks is they're going to have an opportunity to draft one of Bryce Young, C.J. Stroud, one of these top quarterbacks.
The rest of the Lions are good young talent.
Right. Amon-Ra St. Brown is good.
If they can get a young quarterback.
Swift is good young. I mean, I think Rodgers probably has a couple, 1, 2, maybe two seasons.
Did he say he's retiring this year?
Not yet. There's talks of it. I mean, if this is his last year, so be it. If not, then he's got 1 more, 2 more. And then at that point, it's kind of wide open for the next team to step up. And I think the Lions will be the ones to make that jump if they get a good young quarterback to step up. Yeah. If not, I think, so the way I'm predicting it is I think the Packers, as long as Rodgers is quarterback, are going to come out on top of the NFC North. Mm-hmm. And then once he's gone, I think it'll be 1 or 2 seasons of the Vikings, and then it'll be the Lions' turn to just take over. Yeah. And the Packers won't be back until they can get a quarterback that will play at an elite level. The jury is still out on whether or not that'll be Jordan Love, because he's never really gotten a real chance in a real NFL environment to practice at get the number 1 reps in practice, play in NFL environment. I mean, his only start was against the Chiefs in Arrowhead, loudest stadium ever, and he almost won that game for them. So, I mean, I will say it'll be interesting. Jury's still out on if it'll be him or not, but the Packers will still be out until they can fill that quarterback void. Yeah. Their defense is good. I mean, these young wide receivers have looked incredible, but until they can, after Rodgers retires, it's up for grabs until the Packers can replace that quarterback position.
Just got an alert that Steelers are going with Pickett.
They're for sure going.
There you go.
There we go.
All right. Well, let's flip on that and let's talk about Week 5. So we talked a lot about weeks 1 through 4. Let's talk about Week 5. Looking at this schedule right now, there's not a lot of really to me games that jump out this is going to be a great game. So let's do predictions for a couple of these. First off, let's do predictions for. We'll do the Thursday night game. We'll go Colts-Broncos because these are 2 teams that have been struggling on both ends of the ball. I would say the Colts have looked very, very, bad with Matt Ryan at quarterback. He has not looked like the Matt Ryan from Atlanta at all. No. And Jonathan Taylor has disappointed hundreds of thousands of fantasy football owners across the country because he was the consensus number 1 in a lot of leagues, and now he's coming out dropping, bad scores each week. So let's go through this Broncos Colts in what might be a pretty rough Thursday night game. You guys got predictions for that?
I got Broncos. I'll go Broncos. I think out of the 2 very mid teams, I think the Broncos will overcome them. So I got that.
I got the Broncos, and I think they're going to win by at least 2 touchdowns, honestly. I think Russell Wilson kind of figured it out last game. I mean, Javante's a big blow to their team, but I just think they're going to figure it out at some point, and this Thursday is a great time for them to figure it out and click and beat the Colts by 2 touchdowns.
Yeah.
I am also going to take the Broncos. I think it'll be closer than people think, though. I think Russell Wilson's going to struggle still. And the loss of Javonte Williams is very tough towards ACL. He's out for the year. So their running game is going to look a lot younger and worse. And I think it's gonna be up there for there's gonna be mistakes on that side of the ball. I think that it'll be a closer game. I mean, I think Russell Wilson's still gonna continue to struggle a little bit. I wouldn't be surprised if he breaks out this game. Like, if he has a chance to break out for a game, it should be this one. But I still think it's gonna be a close, semi-close game. But I do think the Broncos will walk away with a victory that game. All right, let's do this one. This one's gonna be interesting because it's two teams that are 2-2 right now, but we got Chargers and Cleveland Browns. Browns just came off of a loss to the Falcons, a very close one. This will be in Cleveland against the Chargers, but the Chargers are coming off of a victory against the Texans. So far, the Chargers have dropped 2 games to the Chiefs and Jags and won 2 games against the Texans and Raiders. So no good win jumping out right now from the Chargers. Whereas the Browns, their 2 wins coming off of the Panthers and the Steelers, with 2 losses to the Jets, which was a horrible last-minute meltdown from the Browns defense. And the Falcons last week, they lost by 3.
Falcons are impressive, low-key.
They're a very raw team. So, I mean, they're another team, too, that, like, once they get their stuff figured out at the quarterback position, will be interesting to see where they go from there. They also need to get some more wide receivers. I mean, Calvin Ridley being out for the year is tough on them. And Kyle Pitts hasn't really impressed many people from this year versus last year. Yeah. So it should be interesting to see what people think of this team going forward. But anyways, Chargers, Browns, what are your predictions?
I got Chargers if Eckler can have another good game. Because I feel like Bosa's out. I think Keenan Allen's going to be out again. If Eckler can have another great game, and then if he can hit his wide receiver 2, who's now wide receiver 1, and Mike Williams, I think the Chargers can overcome it. But the Browns are surprising me with them being 2-2 right now. Brissett's somehow playing decent. And the run game's been really good again, but I still got the Chargers.
I got the Chargers. I mean, the Browns really only have the running game, pretty much. I mean, Brissett's okay, and Amari Cooper's good, but, I mean, they have J.C. Jackson. They have a, really underrated secondary, so I don't think they're going to get a lot of passing yards on them.
Yeah.
So I think the Chargers will pull this one out.
I'm also going to take Chargers by double digits. I think Chargers are going to have such – I think Herbert's going to take over this game. I think we're going to kind of see the Browns for what they truly are without that solid quarterback. I mean, Jacoby Brissett has been winning them some of these games, but we've also been seeing them melt down against the Jets and the Falcons, against these poorer teams. And this is going to be like their first matchup against a really high-powered quarterback. I wouldn't say like Baker or Joe Flacco or Mitch Trubisky or Marcus Mariota really impressed me. So I will say that this is going to be their first matchup against a very, very good quarterback, and I think that they're going to struggle against him. I think I'm going to take Chargers by double digits. All right, let's go. We got 2 more here. Let's do Dallas versus Rams at Los Angeles 425 game.
I got Rams. I don't think that's going to be a...
You don't believe in Cooper Rush? He's 4-0 as a starter.
I think the Rams will stop his streak. I don't think it's going to be a very close game, so I got Rams in that one.
I'm going to go the Rams too, but it's going to be closer than most people think. I mean, I don't know. I saw a report that Dak might come back. Is it this week or next week?
I believe it'll be next week. Let me look into that, though.
But, yeah, I think Cooper Rush, although he's not, amazing, he's getting the job done. I mean, the defense is great with Micah Parsons, Trayvon Diggs. And I just think it's going to be closer than people think. I think it's going to come down to the last possession, but I got the Rams.
All right, so here's the news on the injury as of today, October 3rd. It says Dak Prescott is going. If Dak Prescott is going to play this week against the Rams, he'll need to practice on Wednesday. Mike McCarthy wants him to have a full week of practice before returning to action. And then it says Dak is scheduled to meet with doctors on Tuesday, which you guys will be seeing this today on Tuesday, which will determine how his week goes. It seems unlikely he'll be ready against the Rams, but next week against the Eagles is a more realistic return. In the meantime, it says that the Cowboys are 3-0 with Cooper Rush as a starter. So I think it'll be a closer game than people anticipate. I'm with you on that. I wouldn't be surprised if Dallas pulls off an upset here. Yeah. We'll have to see how the Rams do tonight against the 49ers. But the Rams open up the season, bad loss against the Bills, but the Bills are the Bills. So, and then a close win against the Falcons and a 8-point win against the Cardinals. So their offense really hasn't ramped up to anything that impressive to me yet, because, they're in these battles against poorer teams. With not great defenses. So I'm gonna say that I'm gonna take the Rams, but I would not be surprised if Dallas upsets them. Like, it wouldn't shock me. And then let's do one more. We'll do Cincinnati and Baltimore. It'll be the Sunday night game. Baltimore, 2-2 team as well, taking a win against the Jets week 1, close loss to the Dolphins week 2, a win against the Patriots week 3, and then a very close loss to the Bills last week by 3 points. Let's hear your thoughts on that game.
First of all, I want to say that Harbaugh can be an idiot sometimes. I'm just mad because the Bills got the win, but he needs to take his points sometimes. Like, that Bills game was really close.
Yeah.
If he just kicked the field goal on that 4th and goal instead of going for it, they could have had a chance to win. So, love the aggressiveness sometimes, but it's been killing you. So I got Ravens though. The Bengals have not been playing good. So I think the Ravens at home, I think they'll take care of business. I mean, Lamar's MVP front runner.
Yeah.
He's been playing out of his mind. I think the Ravens will handle this. I'll say by maybe 10. But yeah, I got that.
I hope they both lose for the Steelers.
You want a tie?
Into the tie.
No, tie would hurt us even more.
I will say, though, I do love how there's this tradition of week 1 ties in the NFL somehow, and it's still continuing to this day. Yeah. Go for it.
I have the Ravens in this one. I mean, they've choked the last 2 games, I think, against the Dolphins and the Bills, but I think they're going to come out against the Bengals and just manhandle them, honestly. They're looking pretty good on both sides of the ball recently.
I'm gonna take Cincy. I know it's a bit of a hot take because Lamar's playing at such a high level and is the front runner for MVP right now. But I do think that this is Cincinnati's chance to bounce back after, starting 0-2, going 2-0 in the next games. This is their first, whether or not you want to count the Dolphins' second half as a tough opponent, this will be like one of their first tough sets for the entire game. So I think this is going to really prove if the Bengals can, reclaim their spot at the top of the NFC or AFC North like they did last year. And I think they're going to come out swinging. I think Joe Burrow, this is going to be his chance for a bounce back game, prime time. I think Jamar Chase is going to have a pretty electric game as well. I do think that it'll be a hard fought battle, so I think it'll be very close. But I do think the Bengals will take this one. All right, let's go. Let's do some hot takes real quick because we are getting to about that time. So let's go hot takes. We'll start Nico, Dante, will end with me.
I'm going to go, this might be too similar to Dante's a couple weeks ago, but Eagles Super Bowl front runners right now.
Dang.
Going in the Super Bowl. They've been playing insane, dude. I think my earlier take of Jalen Hurts MVP level play. He's been MVP level play. I think the Eagles, with the addition of A.J. Brown this year, they've just been playing really good. Their schedule is not that hard for the rest of the year, so I think they could be a 1 seed. And I think once playoff time comes around, I think they'll do what they need to do, and I think they can be a Super Bowl frontrunner.
Hot take for sure. I'm going to go with the NHL is more fun to watch than the NBA.
Okay.
There's more. I just feel like the NBA is just so, I mean, I wouldn't say boring, but like it's just the same thing every year, and it's such a long, like, I just don't know how to describe it. Watching like a hockey game is just so much more entertaining than watching a basketball game.
I don't
agree with that.
The only reason I don't agree with that is because with hockey, yeah, the excitement, people hitting each other in the fight.
It's not even the only thing.
But you just gotta. What are they? 20-minute periods? Are they 20-minute periods?
It's so long.
20-minute periods, 20-minute periods.
What do you mean?
And you're just waiting for a goal. If a goal doesn't happen, which again is rare because there's a lot of goals in hockey, but you're just waiting there to see if someone can score a goal. With basketball, it's constant scoring.
I will say though that the problem with hockey is the same reason that I have issues with things like baseball and soccer, is that the low scoring affairs, for instance, every time you score a goal in hockey, that's like the moment where everyone's up on their feet, going crazy, blah, blah, blah. I will say that there's less of those moments in basketball, but I would say that there's more small moments of cheering in basketball because you get a big dunk on someone, you hit a big time three to go take the lead in the third quarter, you break someone's ankles, but like there's more of those moments in basketball that are like kind of worth cheering for, but a goal in hockey is going to be like bigger than most cheers in basketball. So like in terms of excitement level, I would say that like a goal in hockey is like going to beat out most things in basketball. I think the only thing that beats it out in basketball is like a game winner or like a really good poster. And then I would say that there's probably more like moments of like smaller bits of excitement during basketball. Like it's consistent, right? You'll get a dunk, or you'll get a nice move like to drive in, make a layup. You'll get an alley-oop. You'll get a 3-pointer in someone's face as the clock shot or the shot clock expires. But then with hockey, there's less of that, right? You'll get big hits, but no one's like, oh, like nice pass across the ice. You know what I'm saying? Or like good defensive stop. Like no one's really cheering as much for like a goalie makes a save. Nobody's like I've been to hockey games. Nobody's jumping out of their seats for a save. Though, you know what I'm saying?
Unless it's sick.
Well, like I said, how is the save going to be that cool to warrant that big of a reaction?
It's very rare for
people
a save.
that go. Will
okay,
know.
if he's like reached out onto one side of the goal and the guy flips it to the other side and he kicks his leg out to block it, that would be cool. How often is that happening?
I mean,
not a lot.
It's not happening that often. That's the only thing I'm saying is like hockey's got a very fast pace of play, but I would say that there's less cheerable moments in hockey than there is in basketball. But I will say that a goal in hockey is like warrants a lot more excitement than a lot of things in basketball.
I don't know, because you cheer if the goalie makes like any save. I mean,
well, you cheer every time they score a basket in basketball. Okay. So, but at what level? What I'm talking about is the excitement level. Is how big of a reason is it to cheer?
I mean, hockey keeps you on your seat. I mean, it's a low scoring. One goal can change. Like that could be the game winner. Basketball, it's like if you start off like slow, you're like.
If you start off slow in hockey, you're not coming back either.
That's not true.
A 2-0, you have to immediately come back and score. You already said that scoring doesn't come often. If you're down 3-0 in the fourth, or in the third period, you have to score 3 times in the third period. I'm
you
granted,
can score 3 times in 2 minutes.
Granted, you can do that, but it's very rare. You can score. You could go on a 15-0 run in basketball. It's very rare, though.
I think you could score 3 goals faster than you can, or like
faster than you score like 15
it's happened more than going on a 20-0 run.
I wouldn't say that. I wouldn't say that I would say that there's more like 15 plus point. I would say that there's more 15 plus deficits that people in the NBA come back from than there are 3-0 deficits that in the NHL that they come back from.
3 is a lot. I would say 2.
Okay, well then that's totally changing it.
Okay,
I would say that a 3-0 lead in hockey is probably similar to a 15-point lead in basketball.
But again, with the one goal can change everything. True. You can score one.
What would you call it then? What would you call it?
I'd call like a 3-0. Dude, if you think about it, There's only like 3 goals that are scored like in a game half the time.
That's why it's boring. Because you're just sitting and
That's
waiting
not
for a
boring.
goal.
So if you're assigning different values to how much each point is worth. So let's boil it down to the fact that every basket in the NBA is worth 2 points. Let's say you score 100, for lack of a better example, 100 points a game. Each basket is worth 1/50th of your team's amount, right? But then you're going to say each score in hockey, say you score about 3 a game, is worth like a third of that. So that's 1/50th for each basket and 1/3. So obviously a 3-0 lead is going to be easier to come back from than like let's say down by to make it your standards. Let's say that they're down by 60 instead of down by 3. Obviously, it's going to be easier to come down by 3 because each score is worth a third of the amount of goals per game. Where in basketball, each time you score, you're only getting a 50th of like your team's points. Does that make sense? So like obviously, it's going to be hard to weigh. Obviously, it's going to be hard to weigh them differently because there's different values to each score.
I feel bad. We're supposed to analyze hot takes.
That's besides the point.
I don't know.
I would just say, I mean, at least it's more exciting than baseball.
That's true.
I'll say that.
I
like hockey a lot, but I do think that I would say that it's less marketable than basketball.
Well, yeah, because more people watch basketball.
No. I would say it's less marketable in the sense that there are less moments for people to like, highlight and put out on like highlight reels. Because, for instance, in hockey, you're going to have 3 highlights per game. Or
it's more impressive to do a highlight in hockey.
You're right. It's more impressive to do a highlight in hockey than scoring a basket in basketball. But you'll make a highlight video for the NBA, and you'll be including all these dunks and flashy passes and assists and all of these 3-point shots like step backs and whatever. But in hockey, you're going to have the 3 goals and probably like a hit and a save in a highlight video. I'm just saying that it's less marketable in that sense. Does that make sense?
I don't really mind the flashy stuff. I just like
no, that's fine.
I'm entertaining and like always being on your seat because like no lead is safe in like hockey.
If you were down 5-0, you would say you would still be on your seat.
I mean, it's rare to happen, but I've seen it before.
Okay, that's fine. That's a good hot take. That's a good hot take.
A 50, someone come back from 50 in basketball.
Okay.
40, 50.
We've seen 30.
I haven't seen 40, 50.
I mean, if you watch the Thunder, you will see 20 plus consistently.
That's true.
Because they are them.
All right, what's your hot take?
Romeo Dobbs, Offensive Rookie of the Year. It's coming. He started off slow first couple games, but he's come out in the last 2, 70 yards, 60 yards, a touchdown in both the last 2 games. They're starting to trust him a lot more. I sent you guys a video. I don't know if I'll throw it up here, but they're throwing him balls that they used to throw Devontae Adams. That like they used to just Aaron Rodgers would snap the ball, immediately throw it that way on the goal line because he knew Devontae Adams would go out and get that ball. And they're starting to do that with Romeo Dobbs. They're starting to trust him a lot more in that offense. Rodgers is trusting him a lot more, and it's only a matter of time until he earns that wide receiver 1 title. Right now, I will say that he's earned the wide receiver 2. They said like a stat that there was only like 4 snaps that he didn't play last week against the Patriots. I think if he keeps on this route, I wouldn't be surprised if he's in the running for Offensive Rookie of the Year because as of now, there hasn't been any rookie that's really jumped out yet.
Bailey Zapp, man.
I would say that there's not been a rookie that has really jumped out. And the fact that there's no like quarterback rookie starting right now.
Doesn't help that Kenny
Pickett's on the
is coming now.
It helps that Kenny Pickett threw 3 picks in his first game.
He still has.
I will say though that there's been no rookie that has really jumped out yet for that award. So I think that he still has time to kind of cement his like spot in that award conversation. Mm-hmm. So that's my hot take. Romeo Dobbs, Offensive Rookie of the Year. I think it's coming his way. All right. Anyways, well, we want to thank you guys for keeping up with us after a week or 2 of us not being here, a little absence. There'll be more content on the way. We'll be getting out some TikToks, some stuff like that. If you want your hot take on this show, you know what to do. Send it in. Nobody does that, but
present it.
We'll play it. We'll get you on. We'll shout you out.
Talk about it.
Anyways, you guys have anything you want to add?
Happy National Boyfriend's Day to all my kings out there.
Yeah. There
you
go.
do you. Good
All right.
job, guys.
Thank you for watching. Follow us on Instagram, TikTok, Twitter. Subscribe on YouTube. All the above. Everything's in the bio. Anything else?
Book it.
Book it. See you guys next week.
See you.